Forced into wedding a charming stranger only to discover he was a hidden millionaire. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The courthouse hallway smelled faintly of old paper and polished wood, the kind of scent that clung to places where lives quietly changed. Emily Hart stood in the center of it all, her heartbeat thudding so loudly she wondered if the clerk behind the glass window could hear it. Her fingers tightened around the thin strap of her purse, knuckles pale, breath unsteady. 10 minutes ago, she still believed she had choices. 10 minutes ago, she had been pacing outside, praying for one more miracle. But miracles had bills, and hers were stacked in a neat, threatening pile on the kitchen counter at home. Past due medical statements, eviction notices, the debt collector who called every morning at 8 o'clock sharp, and now this, a wedding she never wanted. Miss Hart, the clerk called, sliding a form across the counter. Once you sign this, the ceremony can begin. Ceremony. What a strange word for something that felt more like a surrender. Emily lifted her eyes and saw him again. The stranger, tall, composed, handsome in a clean-cut, almost unsettling way. His navy suit fit as if tailored precisely to his frame, but it was his expression that held her, unreadable, steady, the kind of calm that made her want to run in the opposite direction. Lucas Blackwell, that was the name he had given her. A man she had met only 48 hours ago. A man her stepfather insisted she marry to solve everything. She swallowed hard, her voice barely above a whisper. You understand I was pushed into this, right? I did not ask for any of it. Lucas's gaze softened, just barely. I know. His voice was smooth, deep, disciplined in the way of someone used to being obeyed. You are not the only one being forced into an arrangement today. His calm only made her chest tighten more. If he was troubled, he hid it perfectly. Emily, on the other hand, felt every fear sitting openly on her face. The clerk cleared his throat impatiently. Miss Hart, your signature. Her pen hovered over the line. Her future, her freedom, her last name, all reduced to one quick stroke of ink. She thought of her mother's hospital bed, the oxygen machine humming like a countdown clock. She thought of the envelope marked "Final Warning" taped to her apartment door, and suddenly, the impossible choice did not feel like much of a choice at all. She signed. The pen clicked softly, sealing her decision. Lucas stepped closer, his presence a quiet anchor beside her. He took the pen, signed his own name with a controlled, elegant hand, and returned it without meeting her eyes. Follow me, he said softly. Emily exhaled. She could not tell if he was being kind or simply efficient, but she followed anyway, her footsteps echoing along the marble floor, each one carrying her deeper into a life she did not choose. At the end of the hallway, the courthouse door creaked open, letting in a gust of warm afternoon air. Outside waited the judge, a photographer for legal records, and a future that already felt too big for her to breathe in. Somewhere inside her chest, panic fluttered its wings. Who exactly was Lucas Blackwell? Why did he agree to marry a stranger? And what kind of man hid behind a gaze that calm? She did not know the answer yet, but she was about to step into a marriage that would unravel every secret, including the one he guarded most fiercely. The truth about his wealth, his world, and the reason a millionaire needed a wife he had never met. Part 1 ends here. Let me know when you want Part 2. The wedding was over in less than 7 minutes, but the aftermath stretched long and heavy as Emily stepped out of the courthouse beside her new husband. The sunlight outside was warm, yet it felt like a spotlight she did not want. Lucas walked half a step ahead, his posture straight, his expression unreadable. She wondered if this was how he handled everything in life. Steady, deliberate, untouched by panic. A black sedan waited at the curb, polished so perfectly that it mirrored the courthouse columns. The driver opened the rear door with a respectful nod. Mrs. Blackwell, he said. The title slammed into her chest. Emily hesitated before sliding into the leather seat. Lucas joined her on the opposite side, keeping a polite distance, hands clasped loosely on his lap. He looked perfectly composed while she struggled to breathe in this new life. The car pulled away, the courthouse shrinking behind them. Emily glanced at him. So, what happens now? Lucas turned his head, meeting her eyes without flinching. Now we honor the agreement. We go to my estate, and my staff will prepare a room for you. Separate wing. His tone was calm, almost gentle. You will not be asked for anything beyond what we discussed. Emily nodded slowly. She should have felt relieved, but his precision, his restraint, only raised more questions. He studied her for a moment. You look afraid. That is an understatement, she replied, voice soft. There was a flicker of something in his eyes, something human behind the polished surface. You should know this, Emily. I did not agree to this marriage to make your life harder. Then why? She asked, the question she had held back since the moment her stepfather pushed her into the deal. Lucas inhaled, gaze shifting to the passing streets outside the window. There are expectations in my family. Pressures. A marriage prevents certain power plays. You were presented as someone who needed protection, and I needed an ally who had no interest in my world, his world. She had no idea what that even meant. The sedan turned onto a long private road lined with tall trees. At the end of it, rising like a quiet fortress, stood a stone estate with wide glass windows catching the afternoon sun. Emily blinked. This was not a house. This was a realm. The car rolled to a stop. Staff members stood waiting in a neat line, hands folded professionally. Emily's stomach tightened. She felt underdressed, out of place, and painfully visible. Lucas stepped out first. He turned back and offered a hand to her. Not a command, a gesture. She accepted it. Inside, the foyer opened into high ceilings, marble floors, and a grand staircase that seemed to stretch endlessly upward. It was beautiful, but it made her feel small in a way she had never felt before. Your room is on the second floor, Lucas said. If you need anything, my house manager, Helen, will assist. Emily took a slow breath. And you? Where will you be? On the opposite wing, he answered. This arrangement may be unusual, but you will have privacy and respect. She believed him. That surprised her. Helen stepped forward, giving Emily a warm but professional smile. Let me show you to your room, Mrs. Blackwell. Emily followed, glancing back once. Lucas stood in the center of the grand foyer, watching her with an expression she could not decipher. Not cold, not distant. Something else. Something that made her wonder if the stranger she had just married was far more complicated than the man she thought she knew. She did not know it yet, but this house held secrets, and Lucas Blackwell held the biggest one of all. Let me know when you want part 3. Emily woke before sunrise, the unfamiliar softness of the bed making her blink into the dim golden light leaking through the tall windows. For a moment she forgot where she was, then the memory struck. The courthouse, the signatures, the drive through the tree-lined road, the vast estate that swallowed her whole. Married. To a man she barely knew. She sat up slowly, her heartbeat steadying. The room was beautiful, almost impossibly so, with ivory drapes and a balcony overlooking a garden the size of a small park. It felt like stepping into someone else's life. Someone polished, someone confident, someone who belonged here. She did not. A soft knock sounded at the door. Mrs. Blackwell, a warm voice called. Breakfast is ready whenever you are. It was Helen, the house manager. Emily pulled on a simple cardigan and opened the door. Helen smiled kindly, as if sensing Emily's nervousness without needing to ask. It is a quiet morning, Helen said as she guided her down the hall. Mr. Blackwell has already begun his workday, but he asked me to make sure you are comfortable. Emily looked at her in surprise. He did? Helen nodded. He may not look it, but he pays attention. They descended the curved staircase into a dining room with tall windows spilling sunlight across the long oak table. The place had been set for one. A single breakfast plate, a glass of orange juice, a small vase with white lilies. Emily hesitated. Is he not joining? Mr. Blackwell rarely has time for breakfast, Helen replied. His schedule is very demanding. It made sense. Yet a part of Emily felt a small, unexpected disappointment. She ate quietly, aware of the silence settling around her. The house was beautiful, but also hollow, like a museum where footsteps echoed too loudly. After breakfast, she wandered carefully, afraid to touch anything, until she found herself in a smaller sitting room filled with books. That was where she saw him. Lucas stood near the window, speaking low into his phone. His shoulders were tense, his jaw tight, a stark contrast to the calm man she had married yesterday. He ended the call abruptly when he noticed her. You are awake, he said. I thought you might rest longer. His voice was softer than she expected, controlled, but not cold. I did not want to waste the day, she replied. For a moment, neither spoke. Sunlight outlined him, catching the sharp lines of his suit. He looked every bit the powerful man he was, yet something in his expression felt tired. "I should explain more about the expectations," Lucas said finally. "There will be events, public appearances. My family will expect to meet you soon." Emily's stomach fluttered. "And what do I say to them?" "The truth," he said, "or at least the truth they need. That we met, that we married quickly, and that we prefer privacy." She studied him carefully. "You sound like you have done this before." He almost smiled, but it did not quite reach his eyes. "No, but I am used to performing." The word struck her. Performing, like this marriage, like the life she was stepping into. He drew a breath, as if choosing his next sentence carefully. "Emily, you will not face any of this alone. I gave you my word. Together, with Minister Regram." That surprised her more than the mansion, more than the wedding, more than all of it. His words sounded like something that actually mattered to him. Before she could reply, Helen appeared in the doorway with a folder. "Mr. Blackwell, your car is ready." Lucas nodded once, then glanced back at Emily. "We can continue later. If you need anything, ask Helen." But and just like that, he was gone, leaving her standing in the quiet room with the lingering sense that beneath his restraint was a world he did not want her to see, and a secret she was getting closer to uncovering. Let me know when you want part 4. Emily spent most of the afternoon exploring the quieter corners of the estate, careful not to intrude on anything that looked important. She found a greenhouse full of orchids, a music room with a grand piano that looked untouched, and a long hallway filled with old photographs of the Blackwell family. Lucas appeared in a few of them, always younger, always standing slightly apart from everyone else. Even in pictures, he looked like a man more familiar with distance than closeness. By early evening, Helen found her again. "Mrs. Blackwell, I almost forgot to tell you. Mr. Blackwell will be hosting a small business gathering tonight. Nothing formal, but he requested your presence." Emily froze. "Tonight? What am I supposed to do? I do not know anyone. I do not even know what he wants me to say." Helen placed a gentle hand on her arm. "Just be polite, listen more than you speak, and stay close to him. That is all he expects." But Emily knew it was not all. This was the world she had married into, a world where first impressions could decide everything. Her heart thudded with the same nervous rhythm she felt in the courthouse. 2 hours later, she stepped into the private reception room wearing a simple navy dress Helen helped her choose. It was not extravagant, but it fit well, and for the first time since arriving, she felt like she might belong somewhere in this house. The room buzzed with low conversation and clinking glasses. Men in tailored suits and women in elegant dresses moved through the space with easy confidence. And there, near the center of the room, stood Lucas, speaking with a group of executives. He saw her before she reached him. His expression shifted, subtle, but unmistakable, like a man relieved that something in the room finally felt right. "You look beautiful," he said quietly when she stepped beside him. The words were simple, but they steadied her breath. "Thank you," she replied. He introduced her to the group. Their polite smiles hid cautious curiosity, but Emily lifted her chin and offered a steady handshake to each one. She remembered Helen's advice. "Listen more than you speak." And she did. She smiled, nodded, answered briefly when asked, and stayed close to Lucas, just as requested. Halfway through the evening, a woman with sharp eyes and a smoother-than-silk voice approached. "So you are the new Mrs. Blackwell," she said. Her name was Olivia Crane, a major investor and, clearly, someone very accustomed to being the most important person in the room. Emily forced a polite smile. "Yes, I am." Olivia's gaze sharpened. "It happened quickly, did it not? Quite a surprise for all of us." Before Emily could respond, Lucas stepped in. "Olivia, this is not the place." Olivia raised an eyebrow but said nothing more, offering a cool smile before walking away. The moment she left, Emily exhaled. "Who is she?" Emily whispered. "A problem," Lucas answered simply. "One we will handle together." The word together struck her. Even in this world of polished strangers and hidden expectations, he was choosing to stand beside her. The night continued more smoothly. People warmed to her. A few even complimented her poise. Each small success eased the tightness in her chest. But when the guests finally departed and the room emptied, Lucas remained quiet, his jaw tight in a way she had seen earlier. You did well tonight, he said at last. Emily nodded. Thank you. But something is bothering you. He hesitated. My family will want to meet you soon. That will not be as easy as tonight. She swallowed. Will they accept this marriage? His answer came soft but honest. No, they will try to tear it apart. Doop. For the first time, Emily realized that this arrangement was not just about saving her. It was also about defending him, and that made the night feel heavier than any gathering or handshake ever could. Let me know when you want. Part 5. Emily barely slept that night. The encounter with Olivia lingered in her mind, but it was Lucas's final words that echoed the loudest. My family will try to tear it apart. She had known this marriage would be complicated, but she had never imagined stepping into a storm that had been gathering long before she arrived. By morning, the estate felt unusually tense. Staff moved quietly, as if anticipating something important. When Helen knocked gently on her door, Emily sensed it immediately. Mr. Blackwell would like to see you in his study, Helen said. Emily's pulse quickened. The study was the one room in the house she had not entered yet. It was Lucas's private space. His territory. She followed Helen through the hallways until they reached a set of dark oak doors. Helen gave a reassuring nod before leaving her alone. Emily took a breath and stepped inside. The study was warm, filled with dark wood shelves and tall windows pouring in soft morning light. Lucas sat behind a large desk, reviewing documents. When he looked up, the strain in his eyes was unmistakable. Emily, he said, thank you for coming. Well, could have divided. She sat across from him. Helen said it was important. It is, Lucas replied. He folded his hands, choosing his words carefully. My mother requested a family dinner this weekend. She wants to meet you. Emily felt her stomach tighten. Is this the family that will try to tear us apart? Lucas gave a faint, humorless smile. That would be the one. Then why go? Because refusing will only make it worse. He leaned back, the weight of years in his posture. For them, appearances matter more than sincerity. If we do not show unity, they will take it as weakness. And weakness is something they exploit. Emily nodded slowly. So we go together. Yes, his gaze softened, almost grateful. But you need to know what to expect. They will question you. They will test you. They will assume this marriage is a lie. She swallowed. Is it not? His eyes lifted, meeting hers with surprising intensity. Not anymore. The room fell quiet. Emily did not know what he meant. Not entirely, but something shifted inside her chest. This arrangement was supposed to be a business decision for him. Emotionless, practical. But now, sitting in the sunlight with a quiet confession hanging between them, she felt the first tremor of something real. Lucas cleared his throat, pulling a folder from his desk drawer. There is another matter, he said, sliding it toward her. I asked Helen to prepare background notes on my family members, the way they think, the topics that are safe. I do not want you walking in blind. Emily opened it. Photographs, brief descriptions, family roles, strained alliances, an entire map of the Blackwell dynamics laid out like a warning label. You did all of this for me? She asked softly. I did it because I made a promise, Lucas replied. You will not face them alone. Her breath caught. For a man who lived by logic and restraint, that sounded dangerously close to loyalty. Maybe even something deeper. He stood, signaling the meeting was over. Take the day to read through it. Tonight we can practice answering the questions they will ask. Practice? Emily blinked. Like a rehearsal? Exactly like a rehearsal, Lucas said. My family treats life like a performance. We will simply give them a better show. His tone was calm, but the message carried weight. This upcoming dinner was more than a formality. It was a battlefield. As Emily left the study, the folder pressed tightly to her chest. She realized something else. She was no longer just surviving a marriage forced upon her. She was preparing to protect it. And somewhere deep inside, she hoped Lucas wanted to protect it too. Let me know when you want. Part 6. Emily spent the rest of the day studying the folder Lucas had given her. Every page felt like a warning wrapped in polite descriptions. His mother, elegant but ruthless. His brother, ambitious and quietly resentful. His aunt, the family traditionalist who believed a marriage was only real if it followed their rules. Each profile carried the same underlying message. They will judge you before you even speak. By evening, her nerves were wound tight. When Helen found her in the small library, she was still reading through the notes, her thumb tracing the corner of a page she had read 3 times. Mrs. Blackwell, Helen said gently, Mr. Blackwell is waiting for you in the west sitting room. Emily closed the folder with a slow breath. Is this the rehearsal he mentioned? Yes, Helen replied with a small smile. And do not worry, he is better at teaching than he looks. I grasped. Emily was not convinced, but she followed Helen through the quiet corridors until they reached a room softened by lamplight. Lucas stood near a marble fireplace, sleeves rolled slightly, tie removed, a rare sign of loosened formality. He turned when she entered. Good. I hoped you would come. Emily managed a small nod. I want to be prepared. You will be, Lucas said. Sit. We will take it one step at a time. She settled onto the sofa, folder in her lap. Lucas moved a chair across from her, close enough that she could see the determination in his eyes. First question they will ask, Lucas began, his voice calm but firm, is how we met. Emily straightened. We say it was quick, unexpected, but genuine. Good, he said. They will press for details. My mother will push harder than the others. Emily swallowed. What do I tell her? The truth they need, Lucas replied. That I wanted a partner who saw me as a person, not as a name. That you were the only one who ever looked at me without calculation. Emily blinked. But I barely knew you. And that, Lucas said quietly, is exactly why they will believe it. They practiced for nearly an hour. He asked questions in the sharp tone of a boardroom interrogation, and she answered with growing confidence. She was surprised to find that sitting across from him no longer felt frightening. In fact, he was patient, encouraging, sometimes even gentle. When she stumbled, he waited. When she hesitated, he explained. When she grew flustered, he reminded her, you are not performing for them, you are protecting your dignity. At one point, her voice cracked with nerves, and she looked down at her hands. Lucas, what if I fail? What if they see right through me? He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. Emily, listen to me. His tone was low, steady, more vulnerable than she had ever heard. You walked into a world that was never built for someone like you, and you are still standing. That alone is more strength than anyone in my family has ever shown. Her chest tightened, warmth blooming where fear had been moments before. You really believe that? She asked. I do, he said, and I need you to believe it too. For a brief moment, the room felt smaller, softer. The air seemed to shift, carrying something unspoken between them. Emily looked away first, afraid he might see how deeply his words landed. Lucas stood, breaking the moment gently. That is enough for tonight. You did well. As he walked her to the door, Emily could not shake the new awareness settling into her heartbeat. The rehearsal had not just prepared her for a battle with his family. It had revealed something she had tried to ignore. She was beginning to trust him, more than she should, more than their contract allowed. And trust, she feared, could be the most dangerous part of this arrangement yet. Let me know when you want part 7. Emily woke the next morning with a knot in her stomach. The family dinner was only one day away, and despite the hours of rehearsal, her nerves refused to settle. She dressed quietly, trying to steady her breathing, when a sudden sharp knock echoed down the hallway. Raised voices followed. Emily stepped out of her room just in time to see a man in an expensive grey suit storming across the foyer. His expression was sharp, almost hostile, and he moved with the confidence of someone who believed the entire world belonged to him. Lucas appeared from the opposite hallway, jaw clenched. Daniel, he said, you were not invited. Daniel, his brother, the one described in the folder as ambitious and quietly resentful. Emily now understood why the description had been so careful. Daniel's gaze swept over her, slow and cutting. So it is true, he said flatly. You actually did it. You married her. Emily felt heat rise in her face, but she held her ground. Lucas stepped closer, a quiet shield between them. You do not speak to her like that, Lucas said. Daniel scoffed. Do you think anyone in this family will accept this? Mother is furious. Aunt Meredith says this marriage is a stain on the Blackwell name, and the board is already whispering about instability. Do. Emily exhaled shakily, but Lucas did not waver. This is my life, Lucas replied. Not theirs. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Is it? Because it looks to me like you are risking the entire company for a woman you barely know. Emily opened her mouth, but Lucas lifted a hand lightly, signaling her not to answer. Leave, Lucas said. You will see us at dinner. Until then, stay out of my home. Daniel smirked, a slow, taunting curve of his lips. Do you really think she can survive that dinner? Do you think she can survive, Mother? Lucas's voice turned to steel. Get out. Daniel gave Emily one last cold glance before turning and walking away, the front door slamming behind him. Silence swept through the foyer like a cold wind. Emily finally spoke. He hates me. Lucas turned to her, and the hardness in his face softened. He hates anything he cannot control. You are not the problem. I am. She shook her head. I did not want to make things harder for you. You did not, he said. Everything that happened today would have happened with or without you. My family has been waiting for an excuse to attack. I simply stopped giving them permission. Emily looked at him, seeing not just a man under pressure, but a man who had been fighting alone for far too long. For the first time, she reached out and touched his arm gently. You will not face them alone either. He sounded not. Lucas froze, not in rejection, but in surprise. Her touch softened something in his expression, something guarded and weary. He exhaled slowly. Emily, thank you. It was only a small moment, a quiet exchange, but in a house built on power and tension, that small moment felt like the most honest thing either of them had shared. Let me know when you want part 8. Emily spent the rest of the day replaying Daniel's visit in her mind. His sharp words, his cold stare, the threat beneath every sentence, it all left a weight on her chest that refused to lift. But what unsettled her most was the realization that Lucas had endured this kind of hostility for years. Alone, unprotected, expected to carry the entire family legacy without ever showing a crack. As evening fell, the house glowed with warm light, but the atmosphere felt tense, as if the walls themselves were preparing for the storm ahead. Emily found Lucas in the west terrace, standing alone with his hands resting on the stone railing. He looked out at the garden, but his mind was clearly somewhere far away. She approached slowly. You disappeared after Daniel left. I needed air, he said without turning. I needed distance. Emily stood beside him, the cool breeze brushing her hair. Tomorrow is the dinner. Yes, he said. Tomorrow everything becomes real. His tone carried a heaviness she had not heard before. Lucas Blackwell, the man who remained unshaken in every boardroom, who faced investors with unwavering calm, sounded almost tired. She studied him for a moment. The tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw tightened when he exhaled. He was bracing for battle, but not for the business conflicts he was trained for. This was personal. Family always was. Lucas, she said softly, you are allowed to be human. He let out a short, humorless breath. In my family, being human is a liability. To as a flavor. 17. Emily shook her head. Not with me. For the first time that day, he turned fully toward her. His eyes searched hers, cautious yet open in a way she had never seen before. I do not know how you can say that, he murmured. You barely know me. I know enough, she said. Enough to see you are carrying more than anyone should alone. Enough to know you deserve someone on your side. Lucas looked away for a moment, swallowing hard. You should not care this much. This marriage was supposed to protect you, not pull you into my family's war. Maybe it can be both, she replied. Something shifted then, a tension breaking, an invisible line softening. Lucas leaned back against the railing, his voice lower. When I agreed to this arrangement, he said, I thought it would be simple, efficient, a solution. He paused, choosing his next words carefully. But you keep complicating things. Emily felt her breath catch. Complicating? Yes, he said, eyes meeting hers again. You make me want to protect something beyond the contract. You make me want to protect you. Her heart fluttered in a way she could not hide. She tried to speak, but the words tangled with her breath. Before she could answer, Helen stepped onto the terrace, stopping politely a few feet away. Mr. Blackwell, Mrs. Blackwell, dinner is ready. Lucas straightened, the moment dissolving like mist. Thank you, Helen, he said. Helen gave a knowing nod before disappearing inside. Emily turned back to him. We should go. Yes, Lucas replied, but his gaze lingered on her for a beat too long. We should. They walked side by side into the dining room. The table was set for two, the warm glow of the chandelier reflecting off polished silver. The atmosphere was quiet, intimate, far from the cold perfection Emily had expected. As they ate, something subtle changed between them. The conversation was softer, the silence was comfortable instead of strained. Every glance felt like a question, every answer felt like a step closer. By the time the plates were cleared, Emily realized something that made her hands tremble slightly. She was no longer just preparing for a performance at the family dinner. She was beginning to care about the man behind the arrangement, and caring for Lucas Blackwell was far more dangerous than any test his family could give. Let me know when you want part 9. Emily barely spoke during breakfast the next morning. Sleep had been impossible after the long, quiet dinner with Lucas, the one filled with stolen glances and unspoken questions. Now, with only hours left before the Blackwell family dinner, her chest felt tight with a mixture of fear and something she did not want to name yet. Helen helped her prepare, choosing a dress that was elegant without appearing extravagant. Emily stood before the mirror, smoothing the fabric nervously. "You look perfect," Helen said. "I do not feel perfect," Emily admitted. Helen smiled kindly. "Perfection is overrated. Presence is what matters, and you have that." When the car arrived at the family estate, Emily's breath caught. The mansion was even larger than Lucas's, with towering white pillars and manicured lawns that stretched out like a portrait. The moment she stepped out, she felt eyes on her from the windows above. Lucas offered his arm. "Stay with me, no matter what they say." "Ismighty." She nodded, slipping her hand into his. The gesture steadied her more than she expected. Inside, the family was already gathered. His mother, Vivian Blackwell, stood at the head of the room, dressed in a gown that radiated wealth and authority. Daniel was beside her, wearing a smug expression that made Emily's stomach twist. Other relatives lingered nearby, their whispers soft but sharp enough to cut. Vivian's gaze swept over Emily, lingering long enough to send a clear message. Judgment had already begun. "Lucas," she said coolly, "you have brought your wife." Emily forced a polite smile. "It is very nice to meet you, Mrs. Blackwell." Vivian did not return it. "We shall see." Lucas's hand tightened around hers, grounding her as they took their seats at the long dining table. The meal began, but the questions started almost immediately. "How long did you know each other before marrying? Where is your family from? What do you plan to contribute to the Blackwell legacy?" Each question was framed politely, but the tone behind them was sharp. Practiced, calculated to expose cracks. Emily answered steadily, remembering every rehearsal with Lucas. She spoke honestly about meeting him, about privacy, about not wanting anything from the family name. But Daniel leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "So you expect us to believe this marriage was not a bargaining chip?" Emily opened her mouth, but Lucas spoke first. "You will not disrespect her," he said. His voice rang through the room, low but commanding. "You do not need to understand our marriage. You only need to accept that it is mine, not yours." Vivian's eyes flashed. "Lucas, you are risking everything. The company, the family. You cannot build a future on sentiment." Lucas stood slowly, pushing back his chair. "I am not building anything on sentiment. I am building it on choice. My choice." The table fell silent. Then Lucas reached for Emily's hand and helped her stand beside him. "I married Emily because I wanted a partner who sees me as a human being, not as a line in a legacy. And if this family cannot understand that, then I will build my life without your approval." Vivian's face hardened. Daniel looked stunned. No one spoke. Emily's heart pounded as Lucas turned to her, his voice softening in a way no one else had ever heard from him. "Emily, this marriage began as an arrangement, but somewhere along the way, it became real. For me." The room faded. All she could hear was the sincerity in his words. Her breath trembled. "It became real for me, too." Vivian inhaled sharply, but Lucas did not give her the chance to interrupt. "This is my wife," he said firmly, "and I am choosing her. Not as a contract, not as protection, but as my partner." When he finished, the energy in the room shifted, not acceptance, not warmth, but something like reluctant acknowledgement, the kind that signaled a power dynamic had changed. On the way out, Emily whispered, "Lucas, you did not have to defend me like that." "Yes," he said quietly, "I did." They stepped into the night air, leaving the mansion behind. The tension of the evening remained heavy, but something new settled between them, something alive, fragile, and real. Lucas turned toward her. "Emily, I know this marriage did not start the way either of us imagined, but if you are willing, I want to build something true with you." Her eyes softened. "Then let us build it. Together." Lucas reached for her hand again, not out of duty, but out of something far deeper. And for the first time since the courthouse, Emily felt the future open rather than close. The marriage that began as an obligation was becoming the life she chose.